Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a really cool dude, an attorney. Shawn Yesner is joining us. I'll be right back. And we are back. Let me bring Shawn on to the stream here. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, it's great to have you here. So, I told you I created this show. It's been about, 2.5 years ago or so. And I created this to help people get unstuck, to have a breakthrough in life. And I really believe that we can learn a lot from hearing other people's stories. So that's what this is all about. So we have some great people joining us already. Larry Schneider, Glenn Caldwell, everybody welcome. Share this out because I know Shawn is going to bring the heat. He's going to bring it and offer a lot of value. So thank you, Ernest Odell, for sharing this out. So, Shawn, why don't we start with you telling everybody where you were born and raised?
So I am a true Florida native, a true unicorn here. I was born in Tampa.
Wow.
My parents lived here in Tampa. My dad, I think, was either at or done with MacDill at the time. So I was born here in Tampa, but before I was one, both parents grew up in Miami or finished high school in Miami. So we all moved down to Miami, and I grew up in Miami and spent the next, 17 years in Miami.
Wow. So you speak Spanish?
No, not a word.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Wow. How do you grow up in Miami and not know some Spanish, dude?
I know a little bit of Spanish, but that's probably why I'm not in Miami right now, because I don't know Spanish.
Yeah. So, what was it like growing up in that seems really cool. I love Miami. It's one of my favorite cities.
It was a great place to grow up, and even to this day, a huge Dolphins fan, although I don't know that I really want to admit it right now. A fan of the Heat, the Miami Heat. Since I moved back here to Tampa, I've adopted the Rays and the Lightning, but I remember being a Marlins fan. I remember being a Panthers fan. Even, I hate to admit it this week, but even a fan. So,
wow.
So I love growing up there. It's I don't know that it's really the same place that it was when I grew up I was born in 72. So I grew up in Miami in the 80s and early 90s, and it was a great place to grow up. It's changed a little bit since then, but yeah, there'll always be a soft spot for Miami.
Didn't Shawn Barclough introduce us?
Yeah, and I haven't. I don't know if I haven't thanked him for it yet, or I haven't punished him for it yet. One of the two.
Yeah. Thank you, Shawn. I appreciate you, man. So you grew up in Miami. Did you go to college down there, or where did you end up going to college?
I got paroled out and I went to Florida State undergrad. And so as we're recording this is Miami week. Florida State Miami is at the end of the week. And
oh, okay.
Lord knows if my Noles are going to be able to do anything with it, but it's a rivalry game. It's Miami week. So yeah, I went to Florida State undergrad.
Okay. And then you got out and decided I want to be an attorney.
I think I knew since high school that I've wanted to be an attorney.
Wow.
Yeah. And out of spite. So my senior year in high school, I was taking a law class.
Yeah.
As one of my electives. And my dad is a CPA. My dad's been a CPA probably 50 years or more by now. And one of the projects we had to do was we had to interview a practicing attorney for our law class. And so I did. And the guy that I interviewed was a guy that fought the IRS and had gone all the way to the Supreme Court and had argued cases in front of the Supreme Court. And I just thought that was super cool. And so my dad always had me doing numbers, and I was always been good at math. But I think in high school, I decided, based on that interview and based on spite. So my senior year, as part of the law class, we had to run a mock trial. And so I was the attorney designed or picked to do the direct examination of the plaintiff witness. And so I prepared the questions, I prepared the answers, I prepared the witness. We went over it, we practiced, we were in class, we ran through our mock trial. The teacher had 3 different law classes throughout the day and picked the best of each of the teams to be the school's mock trial team. So we get done with the trial. I don't even remember if we won or lost or whatever. But what I remember is that the teacher picked the witness that I had prepared. She thought the witness did such a good job. She picked the witness to be the school's mock trial team witness. She didn't pick me to be on the school's mock trial team.
Wow.
And I said, well, I'll show you. So I went to law school.
Wow.
So I'm a lawyer because of spite.
Hey man, whatever motivates you, right? Whatever works. So where did you end up going to law school then?
I went to law school. So the only 3 years of my life I've been outside the state of Florida. I went up to Birmingham, Alabama.
I thought you were going to say the Ohio State University, dude. Then you had some brownie points with me, but I don't know about Alabama, dude.
We went to Birmingham, Alabama, to a small school called Cumberland School of Law, which is part of Samford, not Stanford, but Samford, Samford.
Yeah.
I went to Cumberland School of Law at Samford University, spent 3 years in Birmingham, gorgeous place to live.
Yeah. Got
to take advantage of all 4 seasons. But I always knew, you can take the boy out of Florida. You can't take the Florida out of the boy. I always knew I was coming back. And so actually started my career as an attorney in Miami, moved back home to stay with my parents and get back on my feet, and started my career in Miami as an attorney.
And so how I've heard nightmare stories about taking the bar exam. How'd you do?
I passed first time.
Did you?
Yeah. And good. I think my score would still allow me to pass today. That same score, the score's gone up. Like all other attorneys, unless you ace it, unless you do perfect on it, I think my score was in the 240 something range. We used to have a saying in law school, what do you call the guy that finishes last in his medical doctorate class? Call him doctor. So
right.
Doesn't really matter. But yeah, I passed the bar. So it was funny story. I was working for this guy in Miami as a part-time, as a law clerk, unlicensed, working under him. He did a lot of immigration law. He did real estate law, which is how I got into real estate law as part of my career here. And so what I would do is I would go to my bar review class first thing in the morning. I'd have lunch, and then I'd go work for him until about 6 o'clock at night. And then I'd study for a little bit at the office. I worked, for those of you familiar with Miami, I worked on Brickell Key or Clawton Island, and I lived in the hammocks. And so it was probably about a 15-mile drive as the crow flies, and it took me an hour and a half each way. So I wanted to wait for traffic to clear. So I would go to take my bar review, go work for him. He would leave the office around 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I would start studying until traffic cleared, and then I would drive home. And I did that every day. And then he gave me about 2 weeks off to study for the bar exam itself. And so same kind of thing. I'd wake up first thing in the morning, I'd start studying, and I wouldn't stop studying until the end of the day. The bar exam is up here in Tampa. It's always been up here in Tampa. This year, I think they also set up an Orlando location, but then postponed the bar exam because of COVID. But I came up here to Tampa. I actually slept with my bar review books under my pillow. I figured, I tried everything else. Osmosis can't hurt. So let me try that too. And it was intense, man. It was You go into this huge room at the Tampa Convention Center that got this clock that's the size of a stadium scoreboard. It
Wow.
shows you how much time you have left. You can't
No
talk.
pressure.
You can't bring stuff in with you. You can't, if you have to go to the bathroom, you got to get a proctor. And I mean, it was intense, but,
Wow.
you know,
How long is that?
it's 2 days. So, and
Jeez.
I don't remember the first day versus second day, but one of the 2 days is the federal part of the bar exam, and it's 3 essay questions that you have to answer. And back then they wouldn't even allow computers, so we got those blue books, and we were having to write out our answers in the blue books. My hand was so cramped when I was done with the bar exam, but it's 3 essays and then multiple choice questions, and then the other day is the same thing, 3 essays, multiple choice questions, but on Florida law specifically.
Now, if you wanted to, I'm just curious because I don't know, and it's a random question, but if you wanted to practice in other states, do you have to go take their bar exam too?
Depends on what state you want to go practice in. So I know, for example, Georgia does have a reciprocity clause where I think if you practice for a certain amount of time, all you have to do is take their state bar portion of the exam, I think.
Got it.
Florida doesn't really reciprocate with anybody. So if you're an attorney in another state, you want to practice in Florida, you got to take the bar exam.
Yeah, got it.
So,
wow. So you pass the bar, you're working at that firm in Miami, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
The guy offered me a job. It was
as an attorney.
As an attorney.
Yeah. A junior.
Right. It was an interesting little firm. There were 3 partners, but each partner was its own corporation. So there were 6 attorneys because each partner had an associate, but I only worked with the one. And so the others were just sort of in the office to bounce ideas off of. It wasn't really a firm like you'd consider a firm. I worked for my boss, and the other associates worked for their bosses, and that was it. But he taught me a ton. He was from England.
Oh, wow.
And so he taught me how to write. He taught me how to write proper in the Queen's English.
Wow.
He taught me how to communicate. He taught me all about title. That's where I got into my love of real estate. He did immigration law, which I couldn't stand. But he did a lot of real estate law. And that's where I found, I graduated from Florida State with a degree in accounting. And I think the numbers just drew me to real estate law. The other thing is I said to a friend of mine when we were in law school, he was working at a family law firm. And I said, dude, why would you want to work at a family law firm? Why would you want to see divorces and domestic violence? And why would you want to see this stuff every day? And I'll never forget his response. He said, well, think about it, Shawn. When does someone go to an attorney because something went right?
Right.
They come, people come to us because things go wrong. But
isn't that the truth?
I think what drew me to real estate, at least at the time, this is now the late 90s, early 2000s, people enjoyed it. So the seller got a check, the buyer got a house that was new to them. Everybody was having a good time. It was one of those areas of law that people came to us because stuff went right. And that's what drew me to real estate.
Wow. So you got into real estate law. How long did you work for that firm in Miami?
I worked there for 3 years.
Okay. And then what?
Well, so I got to the point where I saw I was always going to be this guy's right-hand man. And I saw he was never going to make me a partner. He was never going to, it was his firm and I was his right-hand man. And by that point, Miami was very, very different than the place that I grew up. And I knew it was time to get out. So I started looking for jobs, and I targeted the Tampa Bay area. I targeted the Orlando area. I targeted Jacksonville. And then I decided if none of those worked, I'd target Georgia and go take the Georgia bar. And luckily, I got hired on by a firm here in Clearwater, Florida, that did foreclosure law. And so that was my start into what the law firm is today. So I was one of the bank's attorneys. I was taking away people's houses. I was foreclosing. And I found the area of law fascinating.
Back up. How did you sleep at night? I'm serious. How do you go take away somebody's house? And look, I'm sure there were some real true deadbeats, but like, there was a lot going on. Like in 2008 and 2009, all of that nightmare mess, man. There were some good people that lost their homes.
Yeah, this was '01 to '04 that I was
Oh,
working for the banks.
gotcha.
But I had people ask me that question, how do you sleep at night? And I said, with a pillow and a blanket, like everybody else. The banks, here's the interesting thing. The people that say the bank wants my house, I can tell you, I've heard the banks say it. That is not true. Yeah. Charles
Yeah.
said very comfortably. Yeah.
Yeah.
The banks do not want people's houses. The banks want streams of income.
Right.
Now, if the borrower doesn't pay, they got no choice. And that's a lot of times what the bank's logic is. But I think that was probably one of the best learning experiences I ever had. I got to meet and see a lot of the top people at Chase up in Columbus. I got to meet a lot of the people from Freddie Mac. In fact, I remember going up to Columbus. That's where Chase had its headquarters for mortgages. I don't know where it is today.
Yeah, and I think it's still up here.
It may probably is. And I went in February, and here I am, a kid.
God.
And I didn't know what to do. And I said to a friend of mine, we're heading up there. He said he had just moved to Florida from Chicago. And so he loaned me his overcoat to bring with me. But dude, I was in like a sweater, and I had no idea what to do. I have no idea how to react when it gets cold.
Yeah. Yeah. It's way different in Columbus, Ohio in February than it is in Miami, for sure.
Well, and in fact, I remember back to law school, my roommate was from Tennessee. He was from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I remember one day I was at home alone. He was at the library studying, doing whatever. And I saw the guy, the weatherman, came on TV and said, if you have, you want to turn your water on to prevent your freeze warning. We want to prevent your pipes from freezing.
In Alabama?
In Birmingham. Well, remember, Birmingham is almost as far north in Alabama as you can get.
I get it, but dude, it's still Alabama. It's not Columbus.
I get it. So the weatherman said, you want to let your pipes, you want to let your water run so your pipes don't freeze. So I go to every faucet in the apartment and I turn them all on full blast.
Oh my God.
My roommate comes home. What the heck is going on? I said, dude, the weatherman, the pipes, and he's like, dude, one faucet, one drip, we're good.
A drip. A little drip.
I have no idea. The weatherman said we don't want the pipes to freeze. Turn the water on. I went to every faucet and turned the water on. What do you want me to do?
Funny. And every faucet.
But the weatherman didn't say one faucet, one drip. He said turn your faucets on.
Wow, that's funny, dude.
So
you learned a lot at the firm where you were taking people's houses, like the evil attorney that you were. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I get it though, man. So, where did you end up going from there? Because that was, you said, from till about 04?
Till about 04. So one of the cool things about that firm, every firm that does foreclosure law for the banks says that they are cradle to grave, soup to nuts, A to Z, whatever you want to call it. And what it means is that when the bank refers the loan to that firm, they can do everything. They can do from the lawsuit, if it becomes contested, the bankruptcy, evictions, title issues. They can do the entire thing start to finish. The issue is today, those firms are segregated mostly so that you have one group of attorneys that does one piece of it, another group of attorneys that does another piece of it, and so on and so on. The firm that I was at, the attorneys were also cradle to grave. So between 01 and 04, if you had ever walked into my office, you'd have seen a stack of files that were make sure we pick the defendants properly, a stack of files, make sure we're doing service properly, a stack of contested files, a stack of bankruptcy files, a stack of eviction files, and so on and so on and so on. It was the legal assistants that were segregated by department. So I would work with different legal assistants depending on where we were in the process. So in 04, I had just bought my first house, and the boss sent around an email. She didn't want to do foreclosure law anymore. She was an intellectual property attorney, and that's what she enjoyed doing. So she was shutting the firm down. And so my thought was, well, what do I do to prevent my file from coming across my desk? And I was really good at speeding them up. My fastest, my personal best, my record was 97 days from the time the lawsuit was filed until the time the foreclosure sale occurred. So I knew how to go really fast. I said, let me see if I can turn this on its ear and slow them down and help people. I had interviewed laterally to move to other foreclosure firms, but by that point, I was 6 years out. My dad had started his own CPA practice. I always knew that's what I wanted to do from the law practice perspective. I said, I know a lot about how to speed them up. Let me see if I can turn them on their ear and slow them down. So at the end of '04, around this time, 2004, I hung a shingle and went off on my own and started defending foreclosures.
Wow. Good for you. It's crazy. Back in '08, '09, I mean, we went through that whole thing, man, and business crashed. The house payment didn't.
Yeah.
And we went through it, man, and it was a nightmare fighting Wells Fargo, and it took 5 years, man. And I just remember that I'm of course working with my attorney, who's one of my best friends in the world, and I'm looking, doing case study research, and I see like Wells Fargo, BOA, all of these ginormous lenders are like one. I heard it was a story in Florida. It was somewhere in Florida that Bank of America foreclosed. Like this couple shows up for a surprise birth. The wife's having a surprise birthday party. It's their vacation home, having a surprise 50th for her husband or something, and has all these plans, and gets to their beach house in Florida from up north. And there's freaking foreclosure paperwork up on the doors. It's locked. The locks have been changed, all this stuff. They foreclosed on the wrong house.
The wrong house. Yep.
And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, could you imagine showing up at your house and Bank of America put foreclosures, changed the locks and everything on the wrong house?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stories of that kind of stuff happening. Florida was one of the epicenters of the mortgage meltdown.
Well, I think, and I'm Grant Cardone's a buddy of mine, and he, he said this before. I've heard him say it, that, that was a bubble back then, that back then, all you needed was a heartbeat to get a loan to buy a house.
Right.
And I've heard that we're in the middle of another kind of bubble that's possibly going to burst in the near future.
This bubble is I agree, we're in a bubble, but it's different than formed in '08. I mean, I think real estate absolutely drove the recession in '08. I think real estate's going to pull us out of the recession this time. Now, I think a lot of commercial real estate's going to take a huge hit. I just got a message on Facebook or something today. One of my favorite restaurants close here to the house just can't swim anymore, and they're shutting down in a couple of weeks.
That's
so restaurants, even with my law firm now, personally, the space next to me, I've been in my space now 2 years and a couple of months. The space next to me has been empty since before I took over my space, and I had some designs to bust out a wall or put in a door or whatever and absorb that space. But now I'm thinking, I'm talking to you from my house. My kids are in school. My wife's at work. I got the place to myself.
Yeah.
Why do I need extra commercial space?
Right.
And so I think commercial is going to take a little bit of a hit right now because of what we're going through. But I think
absolutely
it's different because back in '08, '09, even in '01 through '04, '05, '06, the house was worth $100,000 in the morning and it was worth $175,000 at night. And that just couldn't sustain.
Nope.
But I don't think we're seeing those huge jumps in price value today.
So what do you like? So you started your own firm. You said that was '04 or '05?
'04.
'04. So you started up your own firm in '04. Here we are 16 years later. How are things going?
So this is actually the second firm that I've
Oh,
started from scratch.
you got foreclosed on in the first one?
So yeah, I started the first firm, and I actually started up. I rented space from a pair of real estate investors,
Okay.
and so I know we had someone comment about doing a lot of short sales and whatnot, and so
Yeah.
that's what they were doing. They were sending out letters. Yeah, Charles helping people with negotiating and short sales. I did a ton of loan modifications and short sales back in the day. So I had rented space from a pair of real estate investors, and they would send out letters and target people in foreclosure. They'd bring them into the office, and if they couldn't, if it wasn't a house that they wanted, they would say, "Well, we can't help you, but we've got an attorney that rents space from us. Do you want to talk to him?" And man, I would start on like a Saturday. I'd start at like 8 in the morning, and I'd do half-hour consultations through lunch, and I wouldn't be done till 6 o'clock at night. And I'd get more than half of them to hire me on the spot. I
Wow.
mean, there was money coming out of my ears. I got to the point, and I was helping a lot of people. Let me say that as well. I was helping a lot of people save their house or get out of their house with no liability or
Wow.
whatever. In 2006, I met a guy who was just graduating law school, and he and I became friends. And I brought him into the firm as what we call of counsel. So I paid him on a 1099 basis. He wasn't an employee of the law firm. He just sort of handled my overflow. And we worked so well together that in '07, I did give him an equity position in the law firm, and we became law partners,
Yep.
and we ended up growing that firm. So the interesting thing was, we would say, well, why are we getting all these foreclosures? Well, we're getting a bunch of foreclosures because people are getting divorced.
Mm.
So we brought in a buddy of ours to do divorce law. Okay, well, why? What other reasons? Well, we're getting a lot of foreclosures because people are passing, and when they pass away, the family loses an income. Okay,
Mm.
fine. We brought in a probate guy. Why else? Well, they're getting into car accidents, and when they do that, they can't work. And so, okay, we brought in a personal injury guy, and we just kept pulling in the pieces that led to the foreclosure and doing those areas of law. At our height, we were 4 law partners, 12 attorneys total, 150 staff. We were doing, I think, like 4 to 5 million annually in revenue. It was a decent sized little law firm.
Yeah.
And it was great. And then right in a row. So I remember my dad had a triple bypass, which he's still, knock on wood, he's still doing great.
Wow.
Then the following year, that was, I think, '08 or '09. Then the following year, I got married. So that would have been '09, he had his bypass. 2010, I got married. 2011, we had our first son. And 2012, I turned 40. And so
Mm.
bang, 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 4 life events right in a row. And I just looked around and said, I can't keep up this pace anymore. I can't feed the beast anymore. At the same time, the main law partner, the guy that helped me start it, he was going through a divorce, and
No.
no kids. No, I think the biggest argument they had was the dog. Who gets the dog? There were some infidelity arguments going each way, but that, I think, changed my partner's attitude. It stopped being about a bunch of 30-year-olds trying to build this monster and having a lot of fun, and it started to become more about, the first name on the door did X, but the third name on the door did this, and the fourth name on the door did more than the second name, that did more than the first, and it started to become all this craziness. And so I said, look, I'm out. Right around this time in 2012, they bought me out, and I
Wow.
used that money to start this law firm, doing the same kind of thing: foreclosure defense, loan
Wow.
modification, short sales, bankruptcies, helping people get out of debt.
I wow, that's pretty cool, man. So Ernest says, would you recommend commercial space to maintain the company image rather than working out of your home?
Well, and yeah, I still have my office. The what
Yeah.
I said before was I was thinking about expanding, and now I may not
Yeah.
expand it, but I still do. Yeah, I mean, I have a commercial space. If I need to meet with a client that can't be on Zoom or phone, then yeah, I like having an office that they can come to. So yeah.
You know, what's interesting about that question, though, Shawn, is 6 months ago, the answer would be unequivocally yes, you should probably have. Now, dude, we've spent 6 months with, governments saying no face-to-face meeting, social distancing, blah, blah, blah. and I look, Saturday, I was at a client's office, a medical facility in Michigan. And I was up there, helping her with some stuff, and I think she said 70 or 80% of her building is not occupied. Yeah. And it's a gorgeous gorgeous building. So that's massive, man. 70 to 80%. That's insane.
Well, and it's, there was that YouTube video, I think, going around a couple of years ago about the guy doing the meeting on a video call, and the kid walks in, and the maid runs in and tries to grab the kid and get the kid out, and the kid's making craziness, and this guy's on a business call. A year ahere and a half ago, when that video came out, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Today it's normal.
I mean, dude, I look at look here. Let me go back to this. Behind you, you have your cupboards, your drawers are kid proofed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the way it is today. And it's weird. It's really bizarre. Going and meeting somebody and giving my client a hug and was like, are we going to get arrested for this? Yeah. It's just weird, man. But it's a good thing too, to see the difference. So
it is. And there's, I don't know how to react. So I had lunch with a buddy of mine the other day, and his first instinct and my first instinct was to shake hands. Yeah. And we were both like, so now do we get sanitizer? Do we go wash our hands? Can we just eat? Are you sick? Am I sick? Did you take your temperature? It's weird.
Yeah, I think that I don't know, man. I'll just keep my opinion to myself about all of it. I have one, and most people watching know what my opinion is. So Charles says we're in good shape. He's out in the Silicon Valley area. The people who own rental properties aren't being paid in California, which I can't, wow.
Florida's the same way. So we've got our governor put a moratorium in place. Now he did clarify it, but at least until for the next 9 days till October 1, no evictions, no foreclosures in Florida. Now the governor clarified it and said no final action. So you can have the foreclosure lawsuit, you can have the eviction lawsuit, you can get your judgment. You just can't force someone out of their house by a foreclosure sale. You can't have the sheriff put them out on the street. Wow. And then he clarified it further and said, as long as it's COVID related. So I've had some clients I have one client right now, his mortgage default was in 2013. And he asked me to stop his foreclosure sale. I'm like, dude, your default was 7 years before COVID existed.
Yeah.
You're supposed to stop. And I know the CDC came in and said no evictions under certain circumstances as well. So yeah, landlords are getting hit really hard, which means for the real estate investors listening to the show, there's a huge opportunity brewing out there to start buying up distressed properties, whether commercial, residential, because I'm sure there's landlords out there I'm sure that there are people that are claiming COVID that shouldn't be and are not paying rent.
Yeah. Weldon says people are converting office space back into warehouse space. It's less per square foot, but it's rentable.
Yeah. Well, and I know down here in Florida, there's a huge boom of storage space. So converting, building storage space, possibly converting office and warehouse into storage space. There's storage. People don't like getting rid of their stuff. I'm looking forward. We're having a garage sale in about 2 weeks for the community. And they were like, should we have this garage sale? I'm like, yes, we should. I want to get rid of my very valuable crap. Come to my garage sale and buy my stuff.
Joe Ingram, I think he's talking about your client.
Yeah. He had COVID before it happened.
Yeah, he got way ahead of the curve. Yeah.
I had a client that said she had COVID for 6 months. I'm like, if you've had COVID for 6 months, you'd probably be gone by now. I feel for you and I'll help you, but I don't think you've had COVID for 6 months.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're doing to help the world, man? I mean, I know you left the big, well, semi big small firm. You said you were doing 4 or 5 million or somewhere in that arena in the
Yeah.
firm.
Well, the firm was. I
Yeah,
was.
the firm,
The firm
right, right. But I mean, still, you weren't making 20 grand a year. You were
No.
probably doing a little better than that. You're like, yeah, I was 32. But anyway, so you left that after building that up. You got bought out. You started your own um, practice, and so what are some of the things that people reach out to you for? How are you impacting the world currently?
Same kind of thing I did before at the old firm. I'm just helping people to get out of debt. I say that I know I've done a good consultation when the person leaves my office feeling like a weight was lifted off their shoulders. There's a lot of myths out there about foreclosures and bankruptcies and short sales and all that kind of stuff. I do have a big contingent of clients that are real estate investors, and so I help those guys out as well. The big thing, you all can see the mic in the screen. 6 months ago, excuse me, pre-COVID, I have a podcast which I'm representing on my shirt right now. There you go. And so all my recording equipment was at the office. I recorded all this stuff at the office. And so I have a podcast that helps get a lot of this information out: bankruptcies, foreclosures, short sales, investing in real estate, all that kind of stuff. I've written now my second book. So the first book is Crushing Debt, came from the podcast called Crushing Debt.
Nice.
The second book that I just released within the last month or two is called Become Debt Free in Less Than an Hour. And it's all the different tips and tricks that I've picked up 20 plus years of representing people in debt to help people get out of debt. So
Wow.
that's what I'm doing now is battling debt, battling banks. And I still do some plaintiff foreclosure work, because most of the plaintiffs I represent are note holders, note buyers, private investors, private individuals, people that use their 401ks to invest, that kind of stuff. So
I think this is my buddy Corey. If he would click on the link and go register with StreamYard.com/Facebook, it would show his name. But if it's Corey has a bunch of apartments. I'm not sure if it's him or not, but so you work with guys like that too.
Yes, I do work with real estate investors, whether it's multi-unit apartment buildings, whether it's a single family house, 4 units, 2 units, duplex, triplex, whatever. Yeah, work with them. What I don't do is the syndication side of it. So I have attorneys that I refer to if an investor wants to raise a bunch of money to buy an apartment building. I have another really good friend of mine, a couple guys that I can refer to. But everything else outside of that, drafting leases, drafting contracts, letters of intent, all the stuff that goes into commercial and residential real estate investing.
Yeah. So I have several friends that own credit repair companies. And I know some of I used to work for the largest collection agency in the world, selling for them. So what are some of the, what do you think of that industry? Because it seems to, it's every time I open up Facebook, I'm seeing somebody else posting about their credit repair service. So what do you think of that industry?
I think you've got to be careful about that industry. So one of the issues is they'll say, we can get bankruptcies off your credit. No, you can't. Or they'll say, maybe you can, but, we'll get bankruptcy off your credit the day after the discharge is entered. No, you won't. We'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of that. The credit repair industry, they can only get rid of things that are improper or incorrect. And so maybe what they can do is, if I have 10 creditors and I file a bankruptcy, and those
Yeah.
10 creditors get eliminated, get discharged, and they're still reporting on my credit, that I can get rid of.
Yeah.
A lot of times what they'll do is they'll just hammer the credit repair reporting agencies with letters, and when they can't respond fast enough, it has to drop off.
Right.
The score goes up. But once they verify
It's called the law of diminishing returns or something like that, right? Like they just hammer them until they can't respond anymore, and then it has to go off.
But the minute they can verify, it goes back on.
Right.
So you raise it to buy that house, and then it plummets again.
Yeah.
Or there's a whole. I actually ordered a book that a friend of mine recommended. I'm waiting to get it in now. I don't remember the title off the top of my head, but it's a book about how the credit industry works, and there's a couple of hacks that as an attorney I don't know that I could recommend, but there's a couple of hacks to help people clean up credit. And so I don't intend to get in the credit repair business, but I have a couple that I vetted that after the clients are done with their bankruptcy, I send them to a couple of different credit repair companies that I vetted that help them clean up their credit.
Yeah. So what, and that was Doug Wing, by the way, not Corey. Doug owns a bunch of apartments out in the Utah area. So what, and Kyle asks a great question. How do you stand out from your competitors?
Well, the first thing is I work for the banks. A lot of the competitors that I have did not work for the banks. And so I've created a reputation amongst the bank's attorneys that I'm not going to bring a frivolous defense. If I bring a defense with teeth in it, there's something there. Let's talk it out. I am going to throw monkey wrenches at them. I am going to try to slow them down so that the clients can catch their breath and figure out what they want to do in terms of foreclosure, bankruptcy, whatever. The other things that set me apart, the podcast itself. I know a handful of attorneys that have podcasts, but none of them in the area of law that I practice. The 2 books, that sets me apart. I don't know any other published author or attorneys in the area. So those are all the different things that I would say set me apart from my competitors. Is I'm always writing, I'm always content creating, I'm always doing podcasts, YouTube lives, whatever.
I was on your podcast.
You were. I think that episode's coming out Thursday. I got to check with my editor, but I think you're
is it
Thursday? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting, dude. So talk about, don't you have a university or something too?
A university?
No, that's the other one. Sorry, my bad. My bad. So to the average person that may be in a ton of debt right now, and especially amid the COVID crisis and a lot of people losing their jobs and not knowing what the future holds, what would you say to them to that maybe they can't afford an attorney right now? Maybe they don't know that they can get a free consultation or whatever. Like what do you say to the people that are literally trapped in fear right now, not knowing which way to turn? Because there's a lot like that right now.
So a couple different things. Like you said, I give free consultations, and I believe a majority of my peers do. So
yeah,
it doesn't cost anything but some time to go talk to an attorney. One of the other ways that I set myself apart, which was a great question, but one of the other ways I set myself apart is I'm an attorney that files bankruptcies. I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. So there's been plenty of situations where I've told clients, listen, bankruptcy is not a good choice for you. Let's find another avenue. So find an attorney like that in your state. The third thing I would say is don't beat yourself up. I say that to clients almost every day. Don't beat yourself up. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. That's bankruptcy is your second bite at the apple, or we can settle it away or whatever. So don't beat yourself up. It's not as bad as you think. Despite the outside pressures that are going on, the credit card calls that are coming in, the collection calls that are coming in, the notices you're getting in the mail, it's really not as bad as you think it is. And I think the last thing is don't panic. Keep a positive mindset, which I know is really hard sometimes, but if you're having trouble keeping a positive mindset, turn off the news, get off of social media,
Yeah.
Read a book, watch, every once in a while, it's okay to sit in front of the TV and watch, a movie, or watch a football game or a baseball game, or, that's why I'm glad sports is sort of coming back, because it gives us that outlet now. Just don't watch a Dolphins game or an FSU game. But other than that,
Yeah.
watch something positive, watch something uplifting, read something positive, read something uplifting.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion.
Even sports can be like, I've boycotted sports this year because of they've made it political, and I'm not down with that. But so Doug Wing says, I remember the first house I paid off and was completely debt free. I slept so good that night. I've been on Dave Ramsey's program for years. Everyone should read his book. He lost everything because he overextended himself. Now he helps people become debt free. What do you think of Dave Ramsey's deal?
I
don't know enough about it to comment.
Yeah, my goal is to overcome him. My goal is to be bigger than him. That's where I'm going.
Awesome.
Dave Ramsey has a lot of great ideas. Where I disagree, or where Dave Ramsey disagrees with me, is he hates bankruptcy, and I don't know of a situation. I think I saw a YouTube video where, it's got to be bottom of the barrel, worst of the worst, and then he would consider bankruptcy. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. He himself filed bankruptcy. So for him to be dissuading people from filing bankruptcy seems a little hypocritical there. He does have a lot of great ideas, the snowball and the avalanche, and the, living on ramen noodles, and, all that I get it. Budgeting, all that kind of stuff is good stuff. But I know that he doesn't like me because I'm a bankruptcy attorney, and I don't even know that he knows who I am, but he doesn't like me because I'm a bankruptcy attorney. So I'll give it right back to him.
Right. Love that, man. So, Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki recommend acquiring leveraged debt in real estate. I'm wondering what Shawn's thoughts are on that.
So interestingly, Kiyosaki also filed bankruptcy. Not personally. I think it was one of his companies that had to file bankruptcy. And that's another one of those places where I think Dave Ramsey and I disagree. Ramsey is, save, buy with cash. But if you can do it right, if you can leverage that asset and make sure that it's cash flowing, someone else earlier said that all of his apartments are paying right now.
Yeah, it was Doug Wing.
Probably because he's doing a good job of vetting those tenants up front. And so he knows he's getting tenants that have money, that have jobs, that, that are going to be paying. And I think if you can pair that with, Grant Cardone's strategy, Robert Kiyosaki's strategy, and buy assets using debt, but then you have tenants that are paying off that debt for you.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that. It's when you over leverage that you get into trouble. It's when I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this $100,000 house and put a $99,000 loan on it, and then I can't get a tenant in it. Now I got to pay this more. That's when you get into trouble. I had one of my real estate investor mentors taught me a long time ago. You don't make money when you sell. You make money when you buy the asset.
Got it. Wow.
That's how I would answer that one.
So, Robert says, if you can buy rental property with tenants in the right market, you get a cash positive outcome immediately. I agree with that. And Grant Cardone, Grant is an anomaly, man. The dude has, I had him on a live stream with me the other night. He's got $2.1 billion in real estate assets now. And, he's obviously doing something right. And I don't understand all of that stuff, man. I know he does, he has private equity deals and all kinds of different things cooking. So
did you happen to see, I think it was April Fool's. He put out a couple of videos in April about, get me a bankruptcy attorney. I need to file bankruptcy. I want to file.
Actually it was March, and he talked about that on my live stream the other night. Did you not? You didn't see it?
I saw the first part of it. I had something else come up. I had to jump off early, but was that an April Fool's joke?
No, it's something else.
Okay.
You have to go watch it. He and read between the lines. But yeah, it was obviously not true. I mean, he said it. He said, I put that out in March, and a month earlier, I did the 10x Growth Con, and it was a huge hit. I mean, it was huge. I mean,
Right.
John Travolta spoke there, and all kinds of Chris Rock, and so, or was it Chris Rock, or no, it was anyway, whoever. But and he said you got to screw up for a lot longer than 30 days before you end up filing bankruptcy. So, but anyway, so and I think that's something that I again, this show is about how do we help people get unstuck. So for the people that are out there right now that are stuck, that are like, they're stuck, they're scared, they're living in fear. Maybe they can't even, I mean, dude, I've been there where it's like I had to go borrow money from family just to feed my family, and it's like, how do you help those people, man, that are just freaking out right now?
Well, I think it comes back to, a lot of times just take a deep breath, reassess, figure out where am I? And a lot of times it's not really going to be that bad. Even if someone has to file bankruptcy, it's not going to be that bad. It's typically not as bad as you think it is. I answer a lot of questions here in Florida about, I got this foreclosure notice. Are they going to come and take my house tomorrow? No, Florida's still taking a year or so or more in certain circumstances for someone to take the house at a foreclosure sale. Plus with COVID, that's even delayed now as well.
Right.
So
You're a year and a half out or more.
Yeah.
Especially if you fight it.
If you fight it, right. Even if you don't fight it, it's still a year, 9 months, 12 months.
Right.
Plus right now, I anticipate that our governor is going to extend that foreclosure moratorium a couple more times, probably through and beyond the election, because part of the problem we're running into right now is we're getting back to that time of 2008 where I don't think the banks foreclosed on everything they could have because they didn't want this influx of properties hitting the market. They didn't want to flood the market with inventory. And I think that's going to be a consideration for when do we end the eviction and the foreclosure moratorium. But I would say, again, get as much information as you can. A lot of people that come to me that are really scared just don't understand how the process works. And when I explain the process to them and they get it, that's when they feel better. They leave. I still have a box of tissues on my desk just in case, but they leave feeling better. They leave seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They leave with a plan. I think the clients that get themselves into the most trouble just don't have a plan to work it out. They're just sort of flying by the seat of their pants. And
do you have, I know that you practice in Florida, but do you have a network of attorneys that you are comfortable with, that you maybe have vetted, that that you can refer people to? I mean, you have a podcast, dude. That means you're getting out all over the world.
Yeah. And I do have some attorneys that I've talked to in different states that, yes, I can absolutely refer to depending on where they are, where the client is. The other thing is I belong to a couple different consumer organizations, consumer attorney organizations. And so one of them I know has an attorney finder on its website. So if I don't know somebody, I can always refer to that website to go look up attorneys in wherever the person is living.
That's awesome. Do you know how to vet these attorneys? Like what to look for and what to avoid? I mean, because there are bad attorneys.
Yeah.
Like any other industry.
I think what I would look for is, years of experience. How long have they been doing this?
Right.
How long have they been doing this area of law? Some attorneys I personally don't like giving, and I think the bar would actually look down on me if I gave success statistics, number one, because how do you define success? And number two, there's an ethical rule. Yes, attorneys have ethics rules that prohibit us from giving a statistic that might create in the mind of the client a potential result. But I would look at, do they have a podcast? Do they have a book? How long have they been practicing? Do they have reviews on their website? Do they have reviews in other areas?
Right.
Look up, go to the bar's website, whatever state bar's website, look up that attorney on the state bar's website. If that attorney's ever been disciplined, it'll be on that bar's website. Look at, I would do as much due diligence as I can.
Yeah.
It's difficult to say, give me some clients I can interview, because there's attorney-client privilege information there. But
right.
do they have a social media page? Do they have a website? Do they have an active social media page?
Right.
Are they producing content that talks about this kind of stuff?
Right.
Have they been a speaker at different legal education seminars? Which I can check all those boxes, by the way.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. How can everybody on here, how can they follow you? I want to pop your website up here on the screen. So what's your website address?
It's just yesnerlaw.com. YESNER law.com. I do have a second website, which is all the debt-free stuff.
Okay.
So I do
Can
have
they
that.
get to it through Yesner Law?
Not quite yet, but I'll put that link. I'll make that link happen.
What's the other website?
The other one is ShawnMYesner.com.
Shawn what?
Shawn M, as in Michael. ShawnMYesner.com.
Yeah, ShawnMYesner.com. There, right there.
Yep.
Right?
That's the funnel that gets into the become debt free stuff and the books and the podcast is on every major podcast. It's on Apple, it's on Stitcher, it's on all of them.
Spotify, all that.
I learned the other day I was also on Amazon too. So it's on Amazon Music as well.
Awesome. That's awesome. Shawn, you're a good dude, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing. And the final question I have for you is, what do you think, in your opinion, is the number one thing? Now, fear is the number one answer to this question, by the way. So you have to do better than that.
Okay.
What is the number one thing that's holding people back from success and happiness in life?
Themselves, I think. I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning and I read for 30 to 45 minutes. The house is quiet, the wife and kids are asleep, and that's what I enjoy doing. And so a lot of times it's getting out of your own head. I mean, like I said earlier, it's not as bad as you think. If I think to myself, well, this happened, what's the worst case scenario? It's typically not as bad as you think. And so I think a lot of it is getting your mindset straight, and a lot of times just getting out of your own way.
Love that.
Become debt free in less than 1 hour. So the concept behind the book too, by the way, is that you're not going to start reading it now, and an hour from now you're going to be debt free. But the stuff I talk about in the book can be implemented in less than an hour.
Wow. That's awesome, dude.
So
everybody go follow Shawn. What's the best social media? Where are you at most active?
Yesner Law is on Facebook.
Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, and me personally on Facebook, but a lot of times I'll post the stuff on Yesner Law and then share it to my own page.
Okay.
But Yesner Law is on Facebook.
Everybody go follow Shawn Yesner. Shawn, stay with me. Thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom. Appreciate it.
Am I the first attorney you've ever called a cool dude?
Probably not.
Okay.
My attorney's a pretty cool dude, man.
Okay. I appreciate it.
But he's not even been on my show. So yeah. But anyway, hey, I appreciate you, man. And just stay with me for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream, but hang tight and I'll chat with you afterwards. So thank you to everybody who's joined us. Thank you to everyone for sharing this out. And we will see you all tomorrow. Shawn, thanks a lot.
Thanks.